Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So I've gone through the handicap marks and I've actually found 17 that I want to talk about. Obviously we did have the Cheltenham Festival last week, so there was loads of runners, particularly in the handicaps. So there's lots to talk about. So I am going to split this into two videos. We'll split them we'll do 9 and 8. And I've looked ahead to also find potential targets for them, rather than just saying they're well handicapped, and then not giving any context to it. So the first one I want to talk about is Correct Rambler. Now, normally our videos are about horses that drop in the handicap, but Correct Rambler went up £8 to 148, which is absolutely perfect for the Grand National. Not this year, obviously, but for next year. I really hope they do a... They almost go along the lines of One for Arthur. They can go to the Becher Chase. I wouldn't then go to the Classic Chase again, because I think he could go better next time. Becher Chase, then wait until the Premier at Kelso, the Premier Chase at Kelso. After the weights have come out, you've had 2 runs over. You've had a run in the Classic Chase. You've had a run over the national fences. You've had a fitness run in at Kelso in February, and then to the National. And I really hope that's their plan next year. Just the 2 runs. Doesn't need to win either of them. Just run well over the national fences, finish 4th or 5th. He then could win the Kelso race if he wanted to, before going to the Grand National. But he's one I really hope is saved for the Grand National. I'm just making some extra notes. So keep an eye on Correct Rambler for that Grand National next year. Second horse I want to talk about, and it's either James or Lewis, I can't remember which one, and we'll be pleased to hear about this one. Lost in Translation. He dropped £5 to 150. Just going back to James and Lewis, if you don't know who they are, they're the guys from Turf Talk podcast. They're brilliant. They really know their stuff. One of them is a big fan of Lost in Translation. Now, he ran 5th. No, he didn't. He finished 8th in the Ultima, and he's dropped £5 to 150. That's a really low mark for a horse who's finished 2nd or 3rd in a Gold Cup. 3rd in a Gold Cup behind Santini and Album Photo. Really, really good handicap mark that is, 150. Where do I think he can go? It's obvious, isn't it? Look back here. He won the Grade 1 at Aintree. Beating top of the game. Let's go for the handicap. Go for the 3-mile handicap at Aintree. I thought it was a good effort at Cheltenham. He went well for a long way. If you dropped him £5, he would get much, much closer at Cheltenham. He's going to Aintree, where we know he runs well, or where we know he can beat top of the game, who would have been many people's Gold Cup selection the following year. And I think he's very, very interesting for that handicap. Don't give up on Lost in Translation just yet. The next horse is very similar in a way. It's Frodon. Frodon dropped £6 for finishing 12th in the Ultima. He's down to a mark of 158. I think the big thing about Frodon is he likes to go forward and make the running. He wasn't able to. He either wasn't able to, or they thought, let's try something different. It didn't work. He didn't get into his normal rhythm, and he was never really involved in the race. He needs to go forward and make the running. Now, they could do the boring races next year. They could run in October, and they could run in December in the 3-mile handicaps at Cheltenham, or 3-mile 1 and 3-mile 2. Do you know what I'd like to see? For such a bold jumper from the front, go to that. Go to the Becher Chase. Get him into his jumping rhythm out front. He shouldn't be taken on for the lead too much in a Becher Chase. They kind of go a little bit slower because it's the national fences. If he takes to those fences, he could be both brilliant to watch, because he will just be, going at everything and attacking everything. But also, it's a good prize money. He's not going to win a Gold Cup now. He's too old. He's probably going to struggle in graded races as of next season. He'll be getting on a bit. He'll be 10 turning 11. Might as well target something to, they could even go for the Becher Chase. If they win it, then retire him. That's what I would be looking at, Becher Chase. But I think he's very well handicapped, and he is one that I'll be looking out for next season, either at Cheltenham or at Aintree, as I said. The next horse I want to talk about is a horse called Bell X1, who actually went up £4 to 134. Now, why I think that's very interesting is I tweeted a few days ago that the Irish I think they had the 1, 2, 3 in the 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm thinking about it. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think, in the Triumph. And they had 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Fred Winter. And somebody said, well, what about Bell X1? Bell X1 was running for Paul Nicholls, but all of his form and his handicapping had come from when he was trained by Mr. Cody. So the handicap mark was based on his Irish form, not his English form, because he didn't have any. So that's what I meant by they were Irish handicappers and Irish juveniles. Now, the fact he's gone up £4 through being beaten by probably the right horses as well, Brazil and Gaelic Warrior. Now, Gaelic Warrior was the short price favourite. Everyone thought was ridiculously well handicapped. And Brazil had won that race that has now, I think it's had 3 of the last 4 Fred Winter winners have come from winning that race at Naas, I think it is. So the £4 I don't think is harsh. Also, they're all Irish. A lot of his rivals are going to be back in Ireland. So I think he could be very interesting, particularly as he came from against the pace bias. He was a little bit further back than those that really played a hand. Gaelic Warrior and Brazil were both more prominent than Bell X1. So where do I think Bell X1 can go? There's this 4-year-old limited handicap at Chepstow at the beginning of next season. And that's where I hope they target him and start off with a winnable race, but it's still decent prize money. It's 13 grand. It's not 8, 9, it's 13. They can win that and then work out what to do with him. Talking of that juvenile, the other horse that I think is very interesting from that race, therefore, is Too Friendly. Now, he was the best of the British-trained, British handicapped horses. Too Friendly. And he only went up £1 for finishing 5th. I think, again, they'll go to Chepstow. Now, they all ran All Mankind at Chepstow this season, the trainer and owner. Is it the Gredleys? I think. Is it Tim Gredley, the owner? Yeah, I think that's where they'll go with Too Friendly as well. And that would be a good race. Bell X1 and Too Friendly, if they both turn up at Chepstow, I wouldn't totally know who I would pick. But hopefully one of them does, because whoever does, I think goes very, very close at Chepstow in October. That's the next horse I want to talk about is 3 Under 3.5. Now, he actually dropped £1 to 151 after finishing 6th in the Brown Advisory in a race that personally I didn't think he had any chance in. I think he would have been much better over that 3 mile 5 race, which is interesting for next season. I think the fact that they've run him in the 3 mile Brown Advisory, they think he's really good. And I wonder whether they'll look at the Ladbroke Trophy next season to start with. But I think the race that I'd be really keen on seeing him next year is the Classic Chase. He's won at Warwick. He's got the Warwick form. I do believe he wants further. I do think he has a little bit of class about him, but not quite graded class. But he's that top handicapper class about him. So next season, I've said I'm looking at him for the Ladbroke Trophy, so the Hennessy at Newbury, where I think he can go well. But possibly maybe there might be a couple that are a little bit better than him. Possibly maybe there might be, I think I just said. Wow. But the Classic Chase is definitely where I hope to see him middle of next season. That's the Ladbroke that he could run in. There's the Classic Chase. Next horse I want to talk about is Call Me Lord. He's dropped £2 to 140, and I thought he went okay for a reasonable amount of the race in the Coral Cup, but I don't really think he wants that heavy going. The fact that he got taken out of Leicester, I think he wants a bit better going. Now, I know he has won and run well on soft and heavy, but I think he wants a bit better going than that. And I think there's an obvious race for him. He's now down to a mark of 140, as I said. Last year, he finished 5th over 3 mile in the Ryanair Stayers Hurdle at Aintree, the Grade 1. And you can see he actually traded 7-2 in the run. So where does he go? The handicap, the 2.5 handicap. I don't think he quite got home at Aintree last season. I don't think he quite stays the 3 mile trip. 2.5 mile trip into a handicap, off a really low mark for him, a mark of just 140. I'd be very keen on him in that All Park handicap. The next horse I want to talk about is Easy's Land. Now, he's an interesting one because when he came over from France, he won in December of 19. He then won in March of 2020, winning the cross-country. He then finished 4th in the cross-country in a handicap, but he was running off a mark of 167. And then finished 2nd on his return to the Cheltenham Festival in the cross-country, beaten by Tiger Roll. Now, this season, they've given him a completely different campaign. This season, they've gone hurdle, and then Cheltenham. And he's just not got it at all. He didn't like the hurdles. And the trips just weren't suitable. 2 mile 7 and then 2 mile 3 at Ascot. I don't know what that was in terms of a campaign for him. And then he turned up to the cross-country and he disappointed. Next season, I think they'll completely target the cross-country and they'll just keep running him in those cross-country races. It doesn't matter. Off 150, the fact he went off, what did he go off? 8-11 to win a handicap in November of 2020, off 167. The fact he could run off 150 in a handicap next time over those cross-country fences. And come Cheltenham, it's the Cheltenham Festival, it's no longer a handicap. There's no reason to not try and win 1 or 2 of the handicaps en route, the cross-country races en route, and then go to the Cheltenham Festival. I think they'll completely scrap that idea of running over hurdles. They'll scrap the potential of a Gold Cup that they thought he might be when he won the cross-country race the first time. Go and run in as many cross-country races as you can. Get him that experience. Get him that completely used to it again. When he won the Cheltenham Festival cross-country in 2020, he'd had about 3 runs in France over cross-country fences. Then he came to Cheltenham and had another one. So he just knew what he was doing. By turning up at Cheltenham on last week and then starting to jump these fences, having been over hurdles, he just didn't have a clue what he was doing. I think they'll change their idea next season. They'll go for those handicaps en route to the cross-country again. The final horse I want to talk about in this video is Ferro Bamboo. Now, I thought he ran really well in the Grand Annual. And he was one of our selections. We picked him at 14s. He went off 6s. He never got there in time. He just always found it happening too fast. Now, I think the hold-up tactics are the right tactics for him. But I just think he wants to step up and trip now. I think he just can't keep up. Well, he couldn't keep up early doors again. He couldn't keep up at Sandown. At Lingford, he was able to because they weren't as good. The opposition weren't as good. I think next time they'll go up in trip. And I just wonder whether they might aim at the Topham. They actually turned up last year with Iblio, who did something similar. He finished 3rd, staying on well in the Grand Annual before running in the Topham. Now, it didn't work for him. But I just think there might be a little bit more to come from Ferro Bamboo. As you can see, he's very lightly raced. He's only a 7-year-old. And I'll be very interested in him if he turns up in the Topham. So there's some thoughts for the first video. A couple to Chepstow, Bellex 1 and 2 friendly to Chepstow for that 4-year-old handicap. I think what we have to remember there is the Irish horses are going to go back to Ireland. They're not going to come over for smaller handicaps like that. So although they've gone up £1 and £4, I think they're well handicapped still. Easy's Land goes for the cross-country campaign next season. All cross-country, gets used to it again. Call Me Lord to Aintree. He ran well there last year into the handicap. Correct Rambler, keep an eye out for him for the Grand National. Hope he does the plan I've suggested. 3 under through 5, the Classic Chases would be my main aim for him. And as mentioned, that Frodon for the Becher Chase. I'd love to see him in the Becher next year. And for James and Lewis, I can't remember which one it is, lost in translation for that 3 mile handicap at Aintree. So part 2 of the video will be coming shortly. I'm just going to set that all up to record it.